Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition. I'm your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week, the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss. Let's waste no more time. Hashtag ODPHEE if you want to join the conversation on social media. Biggest news story of the week has to be Marvel finally released the trailer to Captain Marvel.
Oh, boy, did they ever.
Arguably one of the biggest anticipated films of 2019, and if you've been watching anything MCU related, this has been on the radar for a while. It's been very, very hush-hush. We finally got to see some footage. Pad, what was your thoughts?
I like the trailer. We knew going into this that this movie is going to be set in the 90s. It's in the description of the film. Marvel has said on numerous occasions it will. Samuel L. Jackson has said it. Clark Gregg has said it. Brie Larson has said it's in the 90s. So the hard thing whenever you're making a movie set in a previous year or previous time is capturing that look, capturing that feel. You know, the clothes, the cars, the technology, this. So how do they capture the feeling of the 90s right from the outset of this trailer? Blockbuster.
Absolutely. The trailer opens up where you see Carol Danvers crash to Earth and winds up in a Blockbuster video store.
Wrecks a few shelves.
Absolutely. And you have Nick Fury narrating. Samuel L. Jackson's kind of given the story of just, what is going on in the world at that point. And you just kind of see Captain Marvel is wandering around at what looks like a subway or train station in her Kree soldier outfit. It is not the red and blue one. It is the green and black one that we discussed on when we were talking about the Captain Marvel footage that was released.
I'm going out on a limb. I don't know anything. I'm willing to bet we won't see that familiar Captain Marvel costume until probably the last quarter of the movie.
I agree. I think that's when we're going to see it, because like we discussed when the pictures came out, I apologize, I said footage. When the pictures came out, we did see Carol Danvers, played by Brie Larson, in her Kree soldier outfit, and we kind of were figuring that is like a designation of rank in the Kree military. So obviously when she is wearing the red and blue costume, that would mean that she has moved up and that she would be captain.
Yep.
So that being said, I agree. We're not going to see that till the back end of the film. But as the movie is progressing, we see that Carol Danvers is now working with S.H.I.E.L.D. in some capacity, that she's walking around at like a secret facility. And we're really kind of seeing just some flashbacks of when she first demonstrates her powers, and you see her shooting what appears to be like photon beams on the top of a train. So that being said, I think they really nailed the opening shot there of seeing what her powers were going to look like. Made sense to me.
Yeah.
And then going from there, you kind of see some flashbacks to where we assume she's on the Kree home world, that you see some of the characters that have been shown in the pictures already of Star Force, which if you've read Operation Galactic Storm, is an Avengers story from the 90s. You see kind of some familiar faces if you've read that book. And then you kind of see some flashback to memories that she's saying that she can't really remember what's real and what's false on Earth. Right.
She's getting some kind of glimpses or dream sequences, I guess you could say, of a previous life. But it sounds almost like her memory's been messed with. Her memory's been wiped. And as often as you see in media like movies and TV shows, whatever wiped her mind isn't quite working 100% because it's leaking back in.
Yeah, you're seeing some flashbacks to her time with the military, and you actually see a cameo from, IMDb says Maria Rambeau, but if you read the comics, it's Monica Rambeau, who was Captain Marvel at one point in the MC Universe 616, but has gone through a couple different codename changes, Photon, Spectrum. So you see her character in there as well, just in a quick cameo. You have to be looking for it. And then you kind of see, as it's going back and forth, you're kind of seeing more flashbacks to when she was growing, Carol Danvers was growing up, and you're just kind of seeing that she's trying to really explain what's going, her history, so to speak. You see where the fake memories, maybe they are fake, maybe they're not.
Right.
Then you see the Skrulls appear.
Oh, boy.
At one point. And then one thing that's been kind of getting some internet heat, I guess, is you see Carol Danvers on, it appears to be a train, subway train, and she punches an elderly woman. Obviously, that is a Skrull.
Yep.
So you kind of see the first interaction she's having on Earth with a Skrull.
Right. She knows what's going on, but obviously having lived a greater portion of her life out in the stars, if you will. So she knows who the Skrulls are. She knows what they're capable of. She knows what they can do. She can obviously recognize them. Otherwise, she wouldn't have punched an old woman in the face. It's so she recognizes them. It's still going to be interesting to see how the riders on the subway train or train react to that.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. I think that is what draws in the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, because you have somebody that's in an alien costume shooting powers off through her hands. And then you see a de-aged Nick Fury.
Oh, boy, they did a good job on that.
And a de-aged Philip Coulson.
Flies under the radar.
Yes, you really have to slow down the trailer to see Clark Gregg, and you will not recognize him at first.
No, you almost have to hold up a photo side by side.
Yes, but it is Clark Gregg in his young Coulson days of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Rocking a comb over.
Yes, absolutely.
Holy cow.
And you just kind of see the interaction that Carol Danvers is now starting to have, and they're kind of doing some more flashbacks to the Kree homeworld. You kind of see with her flying in space, it looks like she has the faux mohawk going on the helmet there. And you just kind of see a lot of stuff happening. They're not giving away a lot of the film, which I like.
No, because the thing of it is she's not Thor, Iron Man. Unless you're one of the diehard comic readers, you don't quite know who she is. You might know the name and you might recognize her, but you're not going to know the origin story. So you got to kind of introduce fans to her, give them a flavor for what to expect from the movie before you really start diving into, okay, here's what the movie's going to be about.
Yeah, Captain Marvel has really taken off in popularity over the past few years.
I'd say so, yeah.
Everybody is really catching on of how much of a powerhouse she is.
I mean, she became such a focal point in the Marvel comic universe that she was the opposing side in Civil War too.
Yes. And just to finally get the recognition of, Marvel's, equivalent to Wonder Woman.
Right. And that's part of the anticipation for this movie is obviously people are going to be excited for a Captain Marvel movie regardless. But the anticipation and the expectations of that only got ramped up with as well as Wonder Woman did.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Marvel has had great success with all the characters they've done, and they finally now introduced a female lead film.
Right, and Kevin Feige did an interview where he said they were always planning on doing a Captain Marvel movie, they just weren't sure when. Wonder Woman's success is what pushed them over the edge to do it.
Yeah, and it's long past due, in my opinion.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, Captain Marvel is a great character to do. Carol Danvers' story is very, very multi-layered.
Right, and from a storytelling standpoint, it makes sense to introduce her at this point in the overarching story of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where you think of the events of what just happened in Infinity War. We'll rewatch it the other day, where your powerhouses in Hulk, albeit not full Hulk, but, Thor, Cap, Iron Man, just every hero from that fought Thanos got their what's handed to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you look up Einstein's definition of insanity, it's doing the same thing and expecting different results. Them fighting him again with what they had is insanity. It only makes sense from a storytelling standpoint for Fury to have an idea or an inkling of what's going on, call her.
Absolutely. And at this point, we don't know where Carol Danvers is set in the current MCU timeline. Because remember, this movie is set in the 90s.
Right.
So there is obviously some years difference. So it's not to say that at the end of this film, Carol Danvers disappears.
Right.
Or is in maybe...
Or she gets called back for something.
Or possibly is in the quantum realm. I mean, that's the hot take that everybody's really trying to link everything to is the quantum realm.
I know I've said it for like the last 3 films, but the post-credit scene for this movie is going to be like the most anticipated thing in a few years.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you see where the bar was set with Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah.
And obviously Avengers 4, as the current working title is arguably the most anticipated film of 2019.
Yeah.
I would say Captain Marvel's up there for me, though. I mean, I got to say, from a personal perspective. Either way, this movie is going to be the benchmark to lead into a, very short lead-in to Avengers 4. Because this movie is coming out in March.
Yep.
Avengers 4 is still slated for May.
Yep.
So, obviously, it's going to be a quick turnaround to get everybody involved in Avengers.
So don't wait to see Captain Marvel.
No, you shouldn't. You should go opening night. I mean, it's looked impressive thus far, and they really have a nice balance of cosmic to Earth.
Yes.
The one thing I could tell from the film, like it wasn't so much set, everything was set in space, but you do see the Kree homeworld.
Right, obviously.
And you see a quick cameo of Jude Law playing Captain Marvel, the original one.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're definitely tying in a lot of the history of the Kree Empire into this, and then where Captain Marvel winds up on Earth as Carol Danvers. I mean, that's going to be the true story, and then seeing how, what has transpired from point A to point B.
I almost get a feel from the Iron Man 1 trailers when I watch this, because you think about the MCU going forward. And obviously, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans' contract situation is up in the air, as has been the case for the last several years. So if they don't come back and you need some new characters to bring in, Captain Marvel's obviously going to be one of them.
Oh, without question.
This Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, it almost feels like we're kind of reliving the beginning of the MCU with Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. We're building to something now. Obviously, something else.
Well, the one thing about the Avengers, if you've followed them throughout the years, they always have an ever-changing lineup. I mean, most team books do, no matter which ones you read in the comics, whether it's Marvel, DC, Image, whatever. The Avengers have gone through a lot of different lineups, but the thing about them is they're always known as Earth's mightiest heroes.
Yep.
So obviously you'd have your, if the old guard, of Thor, Captain America, Iron Man are gone, there's going to be new players to step up. Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. I mean, the list goes on and on. So to see the transition to the next phase of the MCU is going to be really exciting to see. And we've already seen the success of Black Panther, Doctor Strange. I mean, they both have sequels coming out at some point.
Yep.
So for Captain Marvel to finally get her due and then to see where her story is going to be going, that's going to be really exciting to see.
Oh, yeah.
So leading into Avengers 4, I mean, there's going to be a lot of speculation of how it's going to tie into it. Honestly, I don't think the movie's going to tie in that much other than setting up why Captain Marvel is so important to the mainstream fans who might not know who she is.
It's going to set up why she's so important, and I think it's going to set up why Nick Fury had to page her, because that was a pager. He had to page her to come save, and why something as cataclysmic as literally half the population of the entire universe getting wiped wasn't she on Earth. I think you have to set that up and explain that, because as powerful as she is and as big a player as she's going to be in the cinematic universe going forward, you have to address the issue or the question of where was she?
Yeah, because it's going to play a vital role moving forward, because I think they're going to take a little different ending to how they ended the Infinity Gauntlet for Avengers 4.
Probably.
Compared to the comic, I mean.
Probably.
So obviously you're going to see some new players involved, and especially if you've read the Infinity Gauntlet, there's one major player, Adam Warlock, who is not involved in this.
Nope.
So to see how Captain Marvel is going to fit into the equation is going to be really fun to see. But final thoughts on the trailer before we close out the segment, Pad?
Definitely looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what they do with Captain Marvel on screen. I just can't wait. I hope to see her at some point. Just, she's fighting the big enemy, whoever it is, and not quite getting it done, and she just turns loose.
I was very excited to see the trailer finally come out, and it met my expectations, because I have had high expectations for this movie since I heard they were going to do it. Brie Larson, I think, is acting and playing a perfect Carol Danvers thus far from what we've seen. And they've tied in enough of the history of the character where you see the Kree Empire, and we're talking cosmic, and we don't need to tie it into Guardians of the Galaxy exactly.
There's stuff in the cosmic realm other than Guardians.
Absolutely. I mean, if you know Marvel's history, and we're not talking Silver Surfer, because obviously he's not going to be anywhere near this movie.
Nobody that Fox owns will be in this movie or Avengers 4.
Yeah, we can't.
Period.
We can't stress that enough. But Carol Danvers has had a very unique story, as you've read. I mean, obviously her origin elements are going to differ from the comics, because if you know the comics, she has a history involving the X-Man Rogue, or X-Woman Rogue, should I say. So that being said, that's going to be taken out, and you're going to see how the MCU is going to play into it. But you definitely see the history of, when she was a soldier and the Kree, army as we're assuming she is, and then how she comes to Earth and what's transpiring with that. You've seen the introduction of the Skrulls. So it almost seems like for the next phase of Marvel movies, this might have more of a cosmic feel to it.
Yeah.
Which is all right with me. As long as the story is good and the acting is great, I'm on board.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good change of scenery, I guess you could say, because you almost don't want to stay on Earth the entire time, because it's going to be like, all right, we know there's more going on in this universe than just what's going on Earth, so it's going to be good to see something else.
Yeah, because there's so many different directions the MCU can go with. It doesn't need to be centered around the Avengers, because if you read the comics, you know that the MCU is more widespread than just the Avengers.
Every major Marvel comic line, or comic story, I should say, doesn't always involve the Avengers.
No, it doesn't. But it's good to see that they're finally pushing Captain Marvel to the place that she should be, leading her own movie. I'm excited for it. I know Pat is. Let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPHEE. What's your thoughts on the Captain Marvel trailer? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is George Gatton, and you are listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. Marvel's having a great week. DC,
it's been messy.
It's been messy. Henry Cavill, who has been playing Clark Kent, Superman, since the Man of Steel, is now out of the role, allegedly.
Allegedly.
There was some news breaking that Warner Brothers DC is going into a different direction, and Henry Cavill was let go, or he has walked away from the role.
That's allegedly.
Allegedly. There still hasn't been like really official confirmation, except he did make an Instagram post of him wearing a Krypton weightlifting shirt or
Krypton lifts or something like that.
Something like that, and he was lifting a Superman figure into the camera and then lowered it. The way I treat this is it was a heavy weight lifted. So I am tending to think that he is out of the role. Pat, what's your thoughts?
In regards to the Instagram video, I think it's, to quote Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. Because I feel, given what this news, which is he and DC are parting ways or moving on, I think, he could do it tongue-in-cheek. That just doesn't strike me as his MO, especially the day of.
Yeah.
It literally, the internet was losing its collective mind, going nuts all day, and the news even extended out past your entertainment sites and reached some, big name sites. I think it's not exactly his MO to do that same day. Now, given the news, I'm glad to finally see it out. I mean, not to kind of puff up my own chest. I've been reading about this for a couple of weeks, and I was hoping it wouldn't be true because he's been fantastic as Superman.
Oh, absolutely.
He's been fantastic as Superman, but the thing I'd been reading online in a couple places for a couple of weeks was, they weren't 100%. The focus for a while was Man of Steel 2. Man of Steel 2, Man of Steel 2, Man of Steel 2. Great. Okay. Makes sense. Wish you would have done it a little sooner, but I'm not in charge. And then all of a sudden it flipped, and they're shifting focus from Man of Steel to Supergirl. And I'm like, wait a minute, why are you shifting? Kara's not introduced in this universe. I mean, yeah, you could probably write it in some way, but, you just had Superman be the focal point of 3 consecutive mainline movies. It's confusing. I don't fully understand why, but I don't think he's quite out of the role yet because DC/Warner Brothers has yet to come out and say he's gone.
Yeah, it's something that's been a little tricky, and we want to stress we think he's allegedly out of the role, or he allegedly quit. There is alleged he's going to part ways with the DCU.
Right. It's been written and reported everywhere but WarnerBrothers.com or DC.com.
Yeah, I in my opinion, I hate to see him leave the role. I thought he played a great Superman.
Yeah.
I like Man of Steel. I know some people were like, "Oh, it's too dark or too gritty for Superman," and it's to be debated. But
it was a fresh take.
It was a fresh take that I think the franchise sorely needed. Especially after Superman Returns, which, case in point. But he did a great job with that. And then when the focus shifted to Batman versus Superman. And this is a highly contested film amongst the panel, and I'm sure amongst fans alike, too. It shifted away from being like a Superman sequel. It was more of a Batman story.
Yeah.
That, for being Batman versus Superman, it was kind of like Superman was taking a back seat. And this was really establishing, a newer version of Batman to, I guess you could say it was the DCEU or Worlds of DC, since the Christopher Nolan trilogy. So that being said, it was kind of like, all over the place, and then they wound up doing the whole Death of Superman with a version of Doomsday, which, that's a whole messy situation right there.
I was just glad to see Doomsday on the big screen.
I was too, but, honestly...
Was it the best version? No. But, I got to see Doomsday on screen. Can't complain.
No, but, the biggest issue with Batman vs. Superman is they tried cramming too much into it.
Yeah, but this goes back to, I know you've said it before, and for those who don't know it, you've said before, Marvel is a comics company that makes movies, and DC is a comics company that makes comics and makes movies rather poorly. I've said it before. You look at the Marvel model, and in that Disney owns Marvel. Disney is the parent that gives Marvel the allowance to make their money. Mm-hmm. Marvel goes to Disney and says, we need $152 million, which I believe is the reported budget for Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. They go to Disney and go, hey, we want to make this movie. We need $152 million. Disney goes, okay, here you go. And their hands are off. Mm-hmm. Whereas you look at Warner Brothers and DC. DC goes to Warner Brothers and goes, hey, we need $200 million to make this Batman Superman movie, whatever it was. And Warner Brothers goes, okay, here's your $200 million check, but there's some stipulations that come with this check. Mm-hmm. Because it was reported widely that Zack Snyder wanted the film to be a certain length. Mm-hmm. DC wanted, or Marvel wanted, screw up my names. Warner Brothers wanted it under 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Warner Brothers just constantly has their hands in the cookie jar and hands on the product. And whereas you look at Disney, they've had their hands off. Listen, you guys do you. Until you guys screw up, we're not touching this.
Well, it's just a matter of how they want to do their business. If Warner Brothers is the one bankrolling it, yeah, they got a right to say what they want in there and what not. Right. It's a different philosophy because we're as fans are so used to seeing Marvel and the MCU and the evolution of that, and just kind of like Marvel creators are allowed to go completely do their own thing. Right. And everybody lays off for the most part. Whereas you see DC, Warner Brothers is more involved, but that's just how they do their business. It's not a right or wrong thing, right? But it's just if they want certain things in there, they do. The only thing that is just frustrating as a fan is just when they kind of cram too much into one film, and then it really kind of takes away from what you're trying to do. And especially if you're a director and or you're an actor and you're really kind of, I don't want to be saying held back because that's not the right word. Right. But when you really have to, make sure that your vision and your, skills meet the criteria of what is, your bankroll, so to speak, that you're meeting the stipulations that are given to you. That's what I'm trying to say. It becomes difficult. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at like Batman versus Superman, it was originally, it looked like it was The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. Right.
That's how they were teasing it. They showed the logo with the Superman logo and the Batman logo. They were using the one from Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah. And once they started doing that, you kind of said, okay, you're doing that, but then you're going to do the death of Superman. And then it was like, right, you're trying to force too much into it, because the one thing is when you go through, comic stories and you try to bring them to life, the more, it's almost like less is more. When you focus on one story and do that one story well, it will get by. Yeah. But when you're trying to do like two iconic moments in comics, it's tough.
Especially an iconic moment that takes place later in the comics timeline.
Yeah. So obviously with that, the success wasn't out of the park.
No, I think it would have been better. I will say this. I enjoy the extended version they put out on the Blu-ray much more than the theatrical version, because it fills in a lot, it explains a lot. I say this. I think the film would have been better if they'd have just stuck to Batman and Wonder Woman in the film. Because you can bring in Batman. Everyone knows Batman's origin. Do we really need, to see him the parents get shot in the alleyway for like the 9th time or whatever it is? Not really. But everyone knows Batman's origin by now. Wonder Woman, you can bring in and do it how they did it. I think, obviously a different story. I think you could have kept Lex Luthor as the villain, but obviously not bring in Doomsday. You could have brought in Lex and had the three of them face off against Lex. Then you do the Wonder Woman movie. You do the Aquaman movie, and you bring him in slowly. I think it would have worked, maybe not 100% better. It would have worked a little bit better.
No, but what we're trying to get to it before we get really off task here is Batman vs. Superman had so much going on that it really didn't connect with fans, and thus it didn't really do that well at the box office. No. And then coming off the heels of how successful Wonder Woman was, Justice League had so much to live up to.
It had a lot to live up to, but I would say for the vast majority of people, their expectations were real low.
Yeah, but it didn't do so well at the box office compared to Avengers. And, and I think that was kind of the sticking point that there was a lot of, why isn't this working going on? Mm-hmm. And obviously, if the Warner Brothers wants to go in a different direction, they're entitled to. Yeah. They have the right to say that. So obviously hearing that they're going to try going in a different route, it's kind of really surprising at this stage, because obviously coming off San Diego Comic-Con, where they won San Diego Comic-Con with having some of the footage from Wonder Woman 84. Yep. They did the full trailer of Aquaman, which looked amazing. Shazam looked good. Yeah. DC had some momentum. So to see them really shift gears with, allegedly Henry Cavill's leaving or he wants out and he's parting ways. And then there's, word leaking about a rumored push for a Supergirl movie instead. Mm-hmm. And then you hear that, the news on top of that was Ben Affleck was out as Batman.
Yeah, supposedly, and again, this is all supposedly, nothing's been officially confirmed. Word on the rumor mill is Ben Affleck is done as Batman. He's not coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of seems like they're shifting gears. And I know they've rebranded the DCEU as Worlds of DC.
Yeah.
So maybe this is supposed to be coinciding with it. I don't know. I mean, I'm just hearing you're replacing two, actors in this. I mean, Henry Cavill, a lot of people were very happy with as Superman. So to see you go in a different direction or not do another Superman movie, a little puzzling.
I'll say I don't have issue with changing actors. I mean, I'm a James Bond fan. I've dealt with it multiple times, but the confusing thing to me is, okay, you're changing actors. How are you going to pull this one off? Unless you get somebody who gets who looks freakishly alike Henry Cavill, how are you going to explain this one? Like, if you go to do the next Justice League movie or next big team up movie or whatever, and Superman's not there, the guy that they were barely holding their own in Justice League without him, and they only won because he snapped to, came back to life, and came in and saved the day. Ergo, making him, a central figure in that universe and really establishing how powerful he is and how much they need him, for a villain like they had in Justice League. How are you going to explain him not being there if he's not there in the next team-up movie?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think they're going to do another team-up movie, or not for a while.
I would hope not.
I think that if they're going to do anything, they're going to reassess the worlds of DC.
They need to.
Well, no, they're going to have to, because obviously if you get rid of Henry Cavill, you're going to have to recast Superman.
Yep.
And that's fine, because Marvel has done it. Look at War Machine.
Yeah.
Terrence Howard and then Don Cheadle. So you can do it. Or even The Incredible Hulk, Ed Norton and Mark Ruffalo. You can recast a big name in a shared universe franchise. That's fine. But it's just going to be like, okay, well, what's the direction we're going to go in now? Mm-hmm. Because, Jason Momoa is still Aquaman.
Yep.
And there's no plans nor need to switch that up.
No.
I mean, we don't know anything about the other Justice League members that were supposed to get films, Cyborg or Flash. What's the current status on that?
No.
There really hasn't been a lot. We know there's a Wonder Woman sequel coming out. That's a given. So that's going to stay put. As far as the Superman or Batman franchise, that's really up in the air.
Well, the thing with the Batman franchise, I believe Matt Reeves is working on a script, and he has finished and submitted a first draft of the film.
Right, but if they're recasting, for the main role, which we heard John Hamm's name getting tagged to.
Well, John Hamm threw his name in. I think somebody, and I don't know for certain, I think somebody asked him, would he be willing to do it, just because let's be real. With the news that Ben Affleck could possibly be leaving the DCU, if you're a male actor in Hollywood over a certain age, you're going to be getting asked this question. Let's be honest. And I think given, like you said, he's a comic fan. He grew up reading the stuff. He'd love to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be an interesting take if they decide to go that route, or where they're going to go with the new casting. Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of like really interesting to see how this is all going to play out, because there's a lot of uncertainty, especially when they had momentum. See, like that's the thing that gets me the most is the worlds of DC, whatever it was going to be, if it was going to be a shared universe or it was going to be separate. I think it was going to be shared, just because if you look at certain Easter eggs that were planted in all two trailers we saw at Comic-Con with Aquaman and Shazam, that there are ties into what is established as the worlds of DC or DCEU.
Right.
So I don't want to say they're retconning, but I don't know where they're going to go with this, and this is just more puzzling. I mean, I could understand if, tying back into if Henry Cavill wanted out, if they weren't going to do anything, sure. Why sit around if you're not going to do anything?
Right.
I can understand if you want to do something else, and obviously he signed to do the Netflix show.
Yeah, Witcher.
So with that being said, I mean, he's going to obviously have work, so it's not going to be...
Well, so yeah, he's not exactly going to be sitting on his laurels at home. If anybody knows anything about Netflix shows, they're very much in the vein of HBO's, and they're not filming in, sound studios in various parts of the country. No, they're going to where they're actually shooting.
Yeah, so obviously he's going to stay busy, and so would Affleck too if he's officially out of the role.
Affleck's been acting for how many years? He's not going to stay, on the couch.
Right. So with that being said, though, you're recasting two of your biggest heroes of your universe.
Two of the biggest heroes in comics, period.
Yeah, so now it just depends on what direction you want to go. Are you going to have a shared universe? If you are, how are you going to make this happen moving forward? Are you going to try I don't want to say, going in a younger direction, or are you going to, stay around the same ages as you were casted for for the previous roles. There's just a lot of uncertainty. And like I said, the biggest takeaway from this is coming off of a very high point for the worlds of DC. Because you had 2 great trailers come out. There's a lot of hype for Wonder Woman.
There's a lot of good talk coming out from screenings of Aquaman.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things coming out thus far. So to see it kind of take a step back, I mean, I hate to say it's taken a step back because I'd actually like to see them win. I think the competition between them and Marvel would definitely be a great thing for fans.
Yeah,
because we talk about the MCU a lot on here, but the MCU is doing it right in our opinion.
Yeah,
DC we want to see succeed. I'm not sitting here bashing them and going, ha ha,
DC sucks.
Yeah. No, I want to see their movies do well. I'd love to see another great Batman franchise.
I would love to see a point where we get to a point where a comic movie is coming out, and sure, you may not want to see it because that's not my cup of tea, but you don't go online just to peruse Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, what have you, and see a whole bunch of articles bashing a movie about how bad it's going to be. I just want to get to a point where comic book movies are coming out and you have fans who enjoy them.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's what the whole point of going to the movies is, to enjoy it, to enjoy the art. Can DC pull this off and come back? Time will tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any immediate castings for either role if that is the case, but whatever direction they're going to take regardless, they got to make sure they get right and stick to it. Whether they're going to continue to do a shared universe or whether they're not. Either way, they have to do justice to the character and they have to do justice for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know what you think, though. Hashtag ODPHEE. What's your thoughts on the Henry Cavill shakeup? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for segment number 3 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, and not all the news at DC was bad this week.
No, they had some interesting stuff.
DC Films finally released something involving the new Joker film.
Yeah, they did.
The one starring Joaquin Phoenix. You saw the first photos coming out of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Pad, what was your thoughts?
I was a little interested to see this because I know it had been announced Joaquin Phoenix was portraying the Joker in a film. I was kind of curious to see what it was going to look like, any possible details, and obviously what story they're going to be using, because as it comes to Joker, there's a lot of stories they can use.
They definitely can go a lot of different routes. We did find out that apparently Joaquin Phoenix's character's name is Arthur Fleck.
Yep.
Which Kevin Smith pointed out on Twitter that if you just say his first initial, A, Fleck, Affleck.
Points.
A little, wink nudge to Ben Affleck, I guess. I mean, they're really kind of playing up the whole Batman-Joker rivalry, I guess, with that, if that is true. And I mean, I think it's kind of a nice wordplay. But it's, the movie is supposed to be set in the 80s. You don't really see a lot of, a lot to take away from it. Just you kind of see a very, worn down and looked like a worn down and mentally beaten Joaquin Phoenix.
He's been through some stuff.
You kind of sense it. And with that being said, the only thing I can guess from what the movie is, allegedly portraying, that we might be seeing a variation of the Killing Joke.
Whoa, boy, expectations for this movie just went a little high.
I'm guessing, because anytime you kind of deal with the Joker, it's never really been fully established as an origin film.
Right.
And if you know anything about Joker stories, arguably the greatest Joker story ever is The Killing Joke by Alan Moore.
Yeah.
Now, I would be very surprised to see this come onto the big screen as this. Because, like, anytime you really deal with an iconic story, and I know I throw the word iconic around a lot, but when you really break down, arguably the greatest Joker story ever, it's one of the best Batman stories, but it's the Joker's definitive story. Yeah, there's a lot of expectations.
I mean, you look at Joker pre-Killing Joke and post-Killing Joke. It's night and day, because Joker pre-Killing Joke was very ha-ha funny, squirt flour in your face and run away, ha-ha-ha. Then comes Killing Joke, and just complete, and you can find, videos on this and mini documentaries on this, they come and just turn the Joker on his head and just completely 180 the character, dark, gritty, disturbing, and it really floored a lot of people at the time.
Yeah, because you see the evolution of the character, and a lot of people know him just from the Batman TV show with Adam West, and you really kind of get a sense of he was a lot more, he was a threatening villain, sure. But was he, what he turned out to become and evolve to? No, but at that time, they really kind of made him into just a fury of, force, I guess, of just pure insanity at the highest level.
I mean, they turned him from a character who you saw him come on the panels. It's like, okay, it's the villain, whatever, to a character where you see him come on the panel and it's, oh, bleep, what's going to happen now?
And you see how he's just grown in the comics too. I mean, we have I believe a DC Black Label series coming out, The Three Jokers by Jeff Johns, at some point this year.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be, the telling of the origin. And if it's supposed to be three Jokers, you're going to get a lot more different stories coming out.
Right. And you just look at the popularity of him over the years. I mean, I remember growing up as a kid and you go walking around on Halloween and there's always usually a couple of Jokers running around.
Oh, no, Joker is arguably one of the most recognizable comic book villains of all time. I mean...
Purple suit and green hair, you instantly know who it is, even if you can't see a face.
Yeah, and just to see, if you really talk about, he is definitively Batman's number one villain.
Absolutely.
I don't think you can argue. I mean, there are some couple close ones, but when it comes down to it, the Joker is, Batman's complete antagonist. I mean, you take somebody like Batman who needs the Joker to balance out because Batman is all to the letter, and is somebody that is just very precise and very methodical in what he's doing, and then you have the Joker and he's just pure insanity.
Yeah,
and just to kind of see how this is going to play out. I mean, just going based off the description of the film,
right?
I mean, if we're setting this in the '80s, I know that there's been a couple different castings, I guess, for Thomas Wayne. To see that there's going to be a little tie-in, so obviously this is going to have anything to really do with Bruce per se.
Right.
If you're going to be tying in Thomas Wayne, unless this is like a really big flashback.
Right.
Depending on what they want to go with the story.
I think if they're smart, they don't go anywhere near the Thomas Wayne or the Waynes. I think you obviously have to mention them. It's set in Gotham. You have to see or hear them mentioned. But I think the only mention you will see or hear of them in this film is some sort of discussion or what have you to how things went in the city pre their death and post their death, because you've seen that in a lot of instances in portrayals over the years where everything's bright, shiny, and kind of on the upswing, and then the Waynes get killed, and it's just the fastest downhill roller coaster ride of your life.
Yeah, it's just really telling of just how much the Waynes were involved with Gotham, that everything after is just really kind of evolved into what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And to see where the Joker fits in, I mean, obviously, if they really do follow the Killing Joke, I don't know necessarily if they're going to be bringing in Commissioner Gordon.
Probably
for that. I think it's going to be more of the backstory than what actually happens, because I don't think you're going to see a Ben Affleck or a Batman in this.
No, and I can't imagine them bringing in J.K. Simmons to play the role. I mean, it's set in the 80s, so it could be possibly a younger Jim Gordon, maybe one coming up through the ranks or whatever. But I mean, the only thing we know from the film is the official description from Warner Brothers / DC, that being the exploration of Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, is a man disregarded by society and not only a gritty character study, but also a broader cautionary tale, close quote.
It's going to be very interesting, to see how it plays out. And we just got crashed on the panel.
Yeah, we did.
By an old friend of ours. It's the one and only Frederick Theodore from Thirsty Threads, Inc.
Gentlemen, how you doing today?
What's going on, man? We're just catching up on a lot of stories going on. Now, have you been keeping track of anything going on DC-wise with the new Joker film coming out?
I just saw photos yesterday, and I was very, very pleased.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're breaking down right now, because we think they might be going Killing Joke, not only 100% sure.
Is it the origin?
Yeah, it's supposed to be the origin.
It's supposed to be,
so it's like how he was a regular human being, and then he just snapped.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we know is the official description, which is just it's a man disregarded by society, and it's a cautionary tale.
Right.
But early rumor is that he's going to play a comedian who's really down on his luck and really on the outs, which, I mean, for those who know comics, Joker in that line was a down-and-out comedian.
Yeah, he was. Now, who's directing this?
Todd Phillips, who did Old School.
Okay.
Amongst
All
other
right.
films.
Okay.
So
I mean, it's Joaquin Phoenix, so
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you know he's going to bring a certain intensity to the role,
Yeah,
which
for
you
sure.
which you need to, because especially even if he's like down on his luck and whatever, he's still going to tap into like the core essence of the character. And obviously with who's played him before, Jack Nicholson, the late Heath Ledger.
Yep.
There's a certain expectation up there.
Yeah,
That needs
there
to
is.
be it. I would say Jared Leto's character, but obviously that was a very unique version of the Joker, which I don't think we're going to see back on screen.
Jack
That
Nicholson.
was Go ahead.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson was very methodical, where Heath Ledger was just very insanity. He was everything turned to 11. I mean, you remember the scene? He's driving the police car down the street in Gotham, and he's leaning out the driver's side window. I mean, and Jared Leto to me was kind of a blending of the two.
Yeah, except I mean, I didn't really get where the direction they were going with his Joker. Nothing against how
I'll give you that.
Leto did him, but it was just
he was more of a side character in that movie.
Yeah.
if anything.
Yeah.
yeah, it was just like one of those really kind of like weird experiences with him. But moving forward with it though, I think this Joker film has a lot of potential to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Joaquin Phoenix is going to play an awesome Joker no matter what version it is. Just to see what version they go with is going to be the true telling sign.
Now, there was a couple weeks back, I heard rumors that Leonardo DiCaprio was going to be the next Joker.
There was rumor of that one too. Now that's kind of cooled off lately.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't know if they're still going to do that movie or that's officially been canned. You can hit us up on social media, #ODPHEE, and let us know. But I think this kind of ties into if they're really going to go the Joker route, that they might try doing multiple films and doing different origins just to really have you guessing of which one's which.
Well, you think to the comics, that's kind of how it is, because in the comics, at least to my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're the Batman expert, Joker's origin in the comics has been retold and redone like umpteen dozen times to the point where he doesn't even know his own origin.
Well, see, that's the question that they're going to be addressing in the Three Jokers series.
Right.
Is you're going to finally figure out, okay, what's supposed to be the origin. It's always been the basic. He was always the Red Hood. He fell into the vat at Ace Chemicals, and
Right.
The
Right.
rest is so-called history. But they're kind of tying in now that he's so crazy that he doesn't even know if that's true or not.
Right.
I mean, that just goes to show you just how truly insane the character is, but how well it resonates to fans. Of just, you want to talk about just like just a wild force of nature. That's the Joker in an essence.
I mean, you want to get a modern look at it. Look back at The Dark Knight, where the 3 times Heath Ledger goes, "You want to know how I got these scars?" And each time it's a different story.
Right.
Same thing.
I think that's what you're going to see with this if they decide to do multiple Joker films. I don't know if there's necessarily an audience really clamoring for that. I think one will be good, but here becomes another argument for it, though. Okay, let's say this one does crazy numbers at the box office.
Sure.
So they go, okay, we're going to do another Joker film with Leonardo DiCaprio. Well, if you already had a great successful one with Joaquin Phoenix, why are you switching up and going to try
It'll seem like desperation.
Yeah, I mean, it'll just have like a weird feel to it, and I don't know how that's going to work. I really struggle with it.
Yeah.
Because like this should be like one and done, and unless you want to bring Joaquin Phoenix into the DC EU or Worlds of DC.
Is this a DC? Is this
we
backed
don't
by DC yet?
Well,
Do we know
DC
that?
DC's making the movie.
DC's making the movie, but they have not officially said this is tying into the Justice League universe.
Right.
So this might not. That's like the weird thing we don't know. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see if they try doing the Killing Joke, as long as they keep the Batman element out of it and just focus on the story itself. If they can do that, I think it's going to be a hit.
Well, they should be able to, because his story is like the Killing Joke is like by far the greatest introduction to Joker's story.
Oh yeah, without question. I mean, it was just a place in history for the Joker. I mean, you see it's almost like before Killing Joke and after Killing Joke.
Yeah.
It's something to see. If they pull it off right though, I think they knock it out of the park. Let us know what you think though. #ODPHEE. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition with Frederick Theodore from Thirsty Threads Inc. crashing the panel.
Hey.
So, Pad, why don't you kick us off with those one-shots?
Well, got a little bit of interesting news that came out of complete left field. Never saw this coming in a million years. Netflix announced that it is working on a live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender series. Now, for those who remember the very popular animated show from back in like the early mid-2000s, of course, it's the story of a young boy and finding his place in the world after disappearing for 100 years and taking his place in a war that's been going on for 100 years. Now, obviously, there was the movie that came out from M. Night Shyamalan that was a complete and utter fail in every sense of the word.
Yeah, that was not good.
Because when you put the first season, I believe, is 30 episodes animation, so it's 22 minutes apiece without commercials. But when you try to cram a 30-episode season into about an hour and a half, it's not going to do well. I don't care who you are. So this, of course, is beginning production in 2019, and the series is being helmed by the creators of the series. So you've got the guys behind it, the minds behind it. I'm cautiously optimistic about it. You know, I've been down this road once before with this series, so I'm hopeful.
Fred, what you got on that?
It's Netflix, man. Look what they've done.
Yeah.
You know, pretty much everything they touch is really, really good quality.
I would say the only thing I can kind of compare it to is when they picked up the rights to the Series of Unfortunate Events franchise. Again, another franchise that had a tried and failed movie. I look what they did with that. They've had two very well and successful seasons with Neil Patrick Harris playing the villain. You know, third and final season coming soon. You know, I look at the track record with taking franchises who've had a movie and failed, and it's been successful. I'm hopeful.
You know, Netflix, like Freddie T touched on, has really not missed anything they've done. I mean, just taken, for example, the animated Voltron series, which is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, Avatar is a bit different, and especially if you're going to try doing live action, especially after how the movie did not do so well.
Right.
That there is going to be a lot of eyes watching this. How it plays out, I got faith in Netflix that they're going to try making this happen. They're going to make it work.
I got faith in Netflix. They'll give them the bank they need to do it, whatever they need, and it's helmed by the creators of the show. So this is the guys who created the thing. It's their vision. It's what they want to see. It's not somebody else interpreting it.
Right. So this is going to be, you know, I guess closer to what the fans want to see of live action.
Now, it's going to be 30 episodes, you said?
The first season of the show is 30 episodes. Whether they go with 30 episodes, because the thing of it is, it was an animated show, so it was on the shorter side. I would imagine, you know, with it being a live action show, it'll probably be the standard Netflix, like 50 minutes, 48, 40. So I would guess probably somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 14, 15.
And as long as they don't rush it.
Right. Yes.
You know, if they take their time on it and they're poised about everything, with all the little details, because like when you start skipping out on little details, the super fans are going to freak out.
Oh, yeah.
That's when things go downhill.
Yeah, that's the one thing they're going to have to watch, but I think that they're going to pull it off. I mean, I'm going to go in this with a little guarded optimism.
Yeah.
Just because of how
just
because of the movie was. And obviously, it's a different staff writing it and such. And I mean, I have a lot of faith in M. Night Shyamalan with Glass. That looked amazing, the trailer for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of have to wait and see with Avatar moving forward, but I'm excited to see it. Now, I know Freddie T just crashed the panel, so I'm going to kind of throw a one-shot to him, and then I'm going to close out with mine. The one shot I'm going to give Freddie T, I know he's a big Spider-Man guy.
Yes, I am.
And I know that they announced Venom's rating for the movie is going to be PG-13.
Yep.
What is your thoughts on that?
I'm a little sad about it, to be honest with you. You know, I think it should have been a rated R movie, just with the content that we've seen so far. And it's got Tom Hardy in it. I mean, that dude is just a phenomenal actor. And it's a very, very dark story, too. So it's I see why they did do it. But then I'm just like curious, why didn't they go all the way with it?
Yeah, you would think with this movie they'd make it a hard R because it's his origin story, as in this telling. He's not going to have complete control over the suit and over the powers. So I would imagine we're going to see some gnarly stuff get done on screen with this suit and with Tom Hardy. So I'm a little disappointed myself that it's not a rated R, but I think the safe bet would be that when it comes out on Blu-ray DVD, if it's not an R-rated cut, it'll be an unrated cut.
Oh, there'd be definitely a director's cut.
I got two opinions on this.
Okay.
One, I was disappointed it wasn't an R.
Sure.
But the more I'm thinking about this, I think that if they do a hard PG-13, like the Expendables 3 was,
right?
If I'm not mistaken, that was a PG-13.
Yes.
You kind of really didn't know, but
no.
I mean,
it was. I remember coming out of that movie with you seeing it, going, "Wait, how is that PG-13?"
Right. If they go that route, and then they do a director's cut, which is, obviously, I guess, a more rated R version to fit the character.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. But I'm also thinking that they wanted to really make sure this movie is a hit. And obviously, this is not the same character as Deadpool.
No.
So obviously, trying to do a rated R superhero is a little tough to do, especially with somebody that, there are a lot of Venom fans, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But his popularity isn't what it once was.
No, it's not.
So going into this, they really want to make sure that they're going to appease this to as many comic book fans as they can get into a theater. If this movie takes off, because Carnage is not in this one.
Supposedly.
I fully suspect it'll be a cameo.
Yeah.
At some stage. Obviously, if this movie does well at the box office, which it's already projected to do, I think I read 55 million opening weekend, something in that variation. Don't quote me on that. If it does as well as it's supposed to, and let's say it turns into a big blockbuster hit, then they come back for the sequel, and it's a rated R one with Carnage. Because there's no way they're going to do a Carnage movie PG-13.
No.
I understand
holy moly.
Yeah, I understand that Carnage has been in a couple cartoons here and there, but trust me when I say this, if they do a live-action Carnage, that thing is not going to be PG-13.
No, it's not.
So if you can get the movie audience into your character and obviously into a Spider-Man less Venom, this is going to be the true telling point. But if fans buy into it and the reaction is overwhelmingly positive and the box office is booming, doing it as PG-13, and like I said, if they do it in the same vein as The Expendables 3, they can do this movie right. Just really push the envelope, of where you're crossing from PG-13 to an R rating. If you really make it, a really strong PG-13, then this movie can really do some damage and definitely appease the fans that really want to see this be an R, and also get some new ones that are maybe just going into it because, Tom Hardy's into it and his reputation is drawn into the theaters. So I think this can work in that sense. I mean, obviously, I was disappointed this wasn't an R, but I'm not going, oh, this movie sucks.
Right.
Because it's not.
Right.
I have faith that they're going to go into this, they're going to really establish Venom, and then the true test is going to be Venom 2. Because that way, if they do decide to go there and they do Carnage, it's going to be a box office hit. And if they can somehow convince Marvel and Disney to let them have Spider-Man in that film, they'll even push it over the edge that much more.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's my thinking with that. So hit me up, #ODPHE. What's your thoughts on that? My last one shot, if you listen to the ODPH Wrestling Recap, our good friend Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling is going to be on the Walking Dead panel at RoberCon this year.
Oh, boy.
So September 29th and 30th, Roberson Museum, Binghamton, New York, the Sci-Fi and Gaming Convention of the Southern Tier. You got to be at it. So let alone you're going for all the good stuff that RoberCon's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to have Johnny Moose on a panel talking Walking Dead.
That's going to be something to see.
You want to talk entertainment. 10 o'clock in the morning, I believe the panel is. The ODPH panel will be there. Horror Zone 607 is going to be there. Our good friend Mike Blakesley from Photography by Mike Blakesley, Cosplay Extraordinaire, is going to be there. All going to see Johnny Moose with a live microphone talking Walking Dead.
So let me give this piece of advice for those of you considering going to this panel. You wake up that morning, go get yourself a full breakfast from your place of choice, pancakes, maybe some sausage or bacon, depending on your preference, maybe a couple eggs, however you like them done, sunny side up, scrambled, a couple pieces of toast, glass of orange juice or coffee, whatever your preference is. Roll into that panel, get yourself a nice comfy seat, settle in, and kick your feet back and get ready, folks. It's going to be a show.
Yes. Johnny Moose talking Walking Dead is amazing. So trust me, Moose is definitely going to bring it to that panel. Robercon.org for more information. So definitely make some plans to be there September 29th and 30th. Freddie T, thank you for joining us on the panel. How do people get a hold of you?
You can hit me up on Facebook and Instagram, Thirsty Threads Inc., and that's INK.
And definitely check out the new ODPH t-shirts that are coming out. Freddie T has designed them. They are straight fire, if I can say them. And you might see some people wearing them down at RoberCon or New York Comic Con. I'm just saying, you might see it happen.
I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
All right, I'm saying. For Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition. See you next time.